We haven't spoken directly about Israel for a while. It's been relatively quiet, I suppose, but that's changed radically. Now, in terms of Gaza, a lot of rockets have been coming into southern Israel from Gaza. There's an election going on in the Jewish state. So I would be surprised, in fact, if there wasn't an organized intervention, use the word invasion if you like. Israel always responds to attacks, but this will be different. The world will condemn it. But then when does the world not condemn what Israel does? And of course, in the north, for the first time, Israel fired into Syria after a Syrian shell hit an IDF jeep. I suspect that one side, probably the anti-Assad forces, are trying to get Israel involved in that conflict. Or then again, it could be the Assad forces. So if they get Israel involved, will then say, look, the Zionists are on the side of our critics. And it's a complex area. Eric Stakelback is a terrorism and national security expert, joins us now from Washington, D.C. Good to have you back on the show, my friend. What do you think? I mean, it's always dangerous to predict, and the election changes many things in Israel, but surely in Gaza, it has to be more than airstrikes. They have to go in there and get the bad guys.
And Michael, you would think so. You would think they would finish what they started in late 2008 with Operation Cast Lead, where the Israelis did a limited incursion into Gaza. They actually hurt severely the Hamas infrastructure there in Gaza, but they have rearmed. Iran is helping to rearm Hamas there in Gaza. One way they're doing it, Michael, interestingly enough, is through Sudan. The Iranians have weapons factories in Sudan. They were funneling weapons into Gaza. The Israelis, it was probably the Israelis, took out one of those Iranian weapons factories in Sudan just 2 weeks ago. So Hamas has rearmed. They're not where they were in 2008, but they're firing rockets on a daily basis, and Israel cannot live with this.
And as I mentioned in the preamble, of course, if Israel goes into Gaza, the usual suspects will condemn it. But you have to think a little harder about that. The usual suspects, they can say what they want. It's the people who don't say anything or the people who only pretend to say things. The world's not going to react in any tangible form. It's not actually going to intervene. So Israel now says, say what you want. We'll do what we want.
Yeah, I think the big question is, what will the Obama administration's response be, Michael? What will they do? Look, no restrainers now. We have a second term. President Obama is reelected. A lot of people, me included, think that he will really bare his fangs now against Israel. And to me, it's an open question how he'll respond, number one, with a Gaza incursion by the Israelis, which, by the way, as you mentioned, is a defensive action. Imagine if there were rockets raining into, say, Texas from Mexico every day. What would we do here in the U.S.? So Gaza, number one, and of course, Iran. How will the Obama administration respond if and when Israel takes action to take out those Iranian nuclear weapons facilities? That's an open question to me, Michael, and to me, that's very disturbing.
Well, before that happens, if it happens, and it may, of course, Syria being one of the few allies that Iran has left, and these attacks, well, there's only been one attack really, but for the first time a week before that, you had Syrian tanks that actually went into Israeli territory, at least into the Golan. If Israel is pulled in, it'll be very reluctantly. But if it is pulled into Syria, Iran would have to respond in some way because they're terrified of losing their best friend in the region, Assad.
Absolutely. War is coming. Let's be clear. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. War is coming. And this, Michael, the Syrian, not only a crisis, it's a horrific massacre going on right now. That could be the trigger that sparks the conflict. As you said, Iran has too much invested in Syria. They cannot let Assad fall. So if Syria and Israel, lock horns, Iran and its proxy Hezbollah will definitely get involved. I'm kind of torn on Syria, Michael, I have to be honest, because there's really no appealing option there. Okay, it'd be great on one hand to see Assad go because it weakens Iran and Hezbollah, our main enemy right now here in the West, Iran. Anything that weakens them is a great thing. But on the flip side, if Assad goes, and it looks like he is going to go, who comes to power? I believe that the Muslim Brotherhood is the most likely beneficiary of a post-Assad Syria, and that's not a good option either. So no winning options here. It's a complete mess.
I think that's inevitable. Look, there are various disparate groups fighting Assad, and some of them are reasonable. They're secular, they're Christian or post-Christian, they may be on the left. They're all people we can do business with. What tends to happen, as happened in the 30s when there were broad left alliances, one group dominates, then it was the Communist Party, now it'll be the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't know who to back either. However, I think what is going on in the Middle East, I mean, put aside these facile leftist jumps that, oh, it's all about Israel and Palestine. I think there is a huge civil war in the entire region between Sunni and Shia Islam. I think Israel and Palestine are almost incidental in this. And if the Brotherhood does take over Syria, and it has Egypt, of course, and then you have Shia Iran that could do business with Assad, when you have them facing Syria and Egypt, well, they're going to be interesting times.
They will. There's really a Cold War going on right now, Michael, in the Middle East. As you said, on one side you have the Sunnis, led by the Saudis and those oil-rich Arab Gulf states. They're on one side. On the other side, you have that Iran, Syria, Hezbollah axis. And the big question here, I think, is where does Egypt fall? As you mentioned, the new Muslim Brotherhood led Egypt, most influential country in the Arab world, always has been, is Egypt, most populous. Whose side do they come down on? We have seen the Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt reaching out to the Iranian regime. So do they get together? It sounds implausible. Sunni Muslim Brotherhood, Shia Iran. But, Michael, the key point here, when it comes to killing Christians and Jews, they get along just fine. My take on it is, first things first for them, the first order of business, take out Israel. They will work together against the common Zionist entity. After they eliminate Israel, in their view, then they can sort out all of their inter-Islam differences. But for now, I think, yes, the Shia-Sunni jockeying for position power in the region is going on, but I believe if it gets down to the nitty-gritty, they will put that aside to take on the great Satan, us, and the little Satan, Israel.
Well, possibly. I mean, I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think Saudi Arabia is far more frightened of Iran than it is of Tel Aviv, and they fear that, the superpowers in the region, we know what they are, and Persia, Iran is a superpower, and the Saudis want to make sure. I mean, they would love Israel to disappear in a heartbeat, but they're not particularly concerned about Palestinians. They are concerned about Persia or Turkey becoming more powerful in the region. And then little Jordan caught between all of this, which is one of the most civilized states in the region. And Syria tried to walk in before, of course, and that's when Israel stopped them. That was many years ago now, 40 years ago now. If they tried to move into there to maybe make the West Bank a place of instability for Israel, I mean, it sounds like a bit of a game when you think about it. People are dying, for goodness sake, every day, but it's more dangerous than I can remember, probably in the past 10 or 15 years. So I'm sure we'll have you back on the show at some point. Thank you, as always, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.